And we are live with the Tech Talk for Accountants show. I'm your host, Andrew Lassis with Rush Tech Support, where we specialize in IT for accountants. And today we have Lisandra Everett, and we are going to be discussing a very hot topic and try to keep it as objective as possible and try to keep it as unpolitically biased as possible. But we are going to be talking about the recent thing in the news where President Trump apparently only pays a little bit of taxes, and we're going to dig into how can somebody that's bringing in the type of money that he's bringing in be able to pull that off. And Lysandra, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you? Thank you for having me.
1,000,000%. So why don't you give the listeners a little background of who you are and what gives you the right to be on this show right now?
Awesome. So my name is Lisandra Everett. I am the principal owner of Everett Tax Solutions, which is a virtual tax firm that specializes in home and small business. And we do tax preparation. We offer bookkeeping services as well as tax relief services for businesses and individuals. And what gives me the right to be here? You said, hey, you want to come on my show? I
said, sure. And that's enough.
But no, I'm a full-time tax practitioner. This is what I do. There are a lot of people that are the seasonal people. They open in January, they shut down in April, and you can't find them anymore. This is how I eat, so I study this day in and day out.
And so what is your take on the recent news of President Trump and the tax? Is it loophole? Is it evasion? What are the facts in this situation?
Yeah, people hear, paying $750 in taxes and suddenly scream, oh, it's criminal, it's tax evasion. But those really aren't the facts. You can't tell that just by the amount of tax that people pay, whether or not they've committed tax evasion. That's something that you really have to dig into, all of the bank statements, receipts, and invoices, and all of that stuff to determine. It's tax law, right? This fight started way back in 2016 when the debate between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, and she said, oh, well, you haven't paid taxes in 20 years. So everyone in the tax world said, oh, net operating loss. That would explain it. But the world was then set on fire, and especially because he would not release his tax returns. And so that further fueled that suspicion that he was doing something illegal. But the fact is that you really won't know that someone's doing anything illegal unless you're actually seeing all the documentation to support it. But just paying $750 in taxes, that does not say that he's done anything illegal. That just says he used that net operating loss to his severe advantage. And just to give you an idea of what that is, prior to 2017, that's when there was a big old tax code change, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. But prior to that, when a company posted a net operating loss, they could go back 2 years and amend their taxes and possibly get a refund, and then carry forward any remaining balance another 18 years. So if you planned correctly, which is tax planning, if you really planned properly, you could stretch that puppy out for years, which is what he did. I think I read that he used the last of that net operating loss in 2005. So he stretched it out for probably about 15 years. Well, he posted almost $1 billion loss. It was like 915 million. Like at that point, 85,000, that's like $1.50 when we're talking about millions of dollars, right?
Like at that level, these aren't even real numbers.
It's like, no. So, when you're talking about posting almost $1 billion, stretched out over 20 years, it's like 50 million a year. So, with proper planning, I think you can manage to not make more than 50 million a year. So yeah, even though, the headline, it really, ticked off the planet, it's really not enough to say that the president did anything illegal. And, it's like anybody in their right minds always wants to pay the least amount of tax possible, right? That's everybody. Because, you go to your tax person, you got all of your receipts, you got all of your donations, right? Because you're trying to reduce your tax liability. It's just that there are, some things that apply to corporations, some things that apply to individuals. So, it's just two different parts of the tax code, but nothing illegal.
So are there pieces of this that say someone that isn't in that range that they could apply to reduce their tax liability? So like the net operating loss, is that something that someone making, we'll just put it, say like even a regular, like someone making 50,000 a year, is this things that they could apply, or do they need to be itemizing to get to that? And at what level do people need to be at in order to be taking advantage of these kind of things?
Net operating losses apply to business owners. It does not apply to that individual working W-2 taxpayer. So really are two different tax systems. There's the individual, like I said, the taxpayer where you go to work, you have your taxes withheld. If you withheld too much, then you get a refund. If you haven't withheld enough, then you have a tax bill. Where with business owners, you get to pay your bills first and then pay tax on what's left over. So you're deducting everything that you can get your hot little hands on to reduce that amount of taxable income.
Within the law.
Within the law, exactly.
Not everybody. It's I've spoken with people that they're like, well, I just deduct everything and it's all a write-off and whatever. Like my taxes are so low, and I'm like, I cannot argue that is a fact, but that just because you're a drug dealer doesn't mean that it's legal. Right?
But
just
you got to report the income, though. It doesn't matter. If you're a drug dealer, you better report your income. Okay?
Right. But like if you're doing something that is illegal, right, just because you're getting away with it doesn't mean that it's acceptable.
That's right.
And we see that when we're protecting organizations. It's like, these are the laws that the IRS has for people that have a PTIN.
Right.
So whether or not you want to pay to have a written information security plan, or want to pay to have VPN and encryption, all this stuff, like it is just a law. Mm-hmm. Like, well, I haven't needed it in the past. Yeah, you haven't gotten caught, but it's law.
It's coming.
Here is the law where it is written.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it make sense to be following the law?
And we get that, right? We get that all the time. Well, who's going to know? Well, first of all, you trying to deduct something illegally is not worth me losing my business over. Because and a lot of times the taxpayer who's hiring the tax professional has a very difficult time understanding that yes, we do work for you, the taxpayer, but we have to work within the confines of the law. And if we knowingly file a return that's not lawful, we can be held liable too. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm entirely too cute for prison. So
That's what I was thinking when you were my brain jumped ahead. I was like, she's too cute for prison.
No, that's not what we're doing. But
if you don't say it, I'm going to.
And so, so that's what we have to be careful of as practitioners, because a lot of times, clients will come to us, well, Jack deducted such and such, and well, that's nice for Jack, but that wasn't legal and I'm not doing it. And so you really have to be okay with letting someone walk away to protect the integrity of your business, because people are going to try it. Like one of the things that came out in this article was the amount that he spent for hair. It's like $70,000 in a year for hair. I'm like, okay, for me, that's an improper deduction. It's not worth going to jail over. And I doubt very seriously, if anything, if the IRS determines, that was an improper deduction, then they'll just disallow the expense and he'll have to pay the tax. Again, $70,000 over like millions. Like, seriously,
right.
But
we're
on a regular
jump over
day,
dollars to pick up this penny,
right? So, and so for that, and it's generally not a tax deductible expense. I don't care if you got to be on TV or whatever, but that's what normally happens when there's an improper deduction. The IRS doesn't send you to jail over an improper deduction. When they audit your return, they send you a result and say, we've adjusted your return. Here is how much you now owe us back, plus penalties and interest, and we'd like it now, please, and thank you.
Great news. You owe us more money.
You owe us more money with interest and penalties. And oh, by the way, that interest is compounding and added every day. So the sooner you pay us, the better.
Great news. You owe us a ton of money.
Yeah.
But what about the people that just get away with it? I mean, they have a valid argument. It doesn't make it legal, but the people that, and I'm sure you guys see it all the time, where it's just like, well, my brother-in-law, he used to do my taxes, and he took a course in college 18 years ago, Accounting 101, and he says, I can just deduct everything. And he also says, I'm an S-Corp. And he also says all these things. And it's like, well, yeah, why aren't you continuing to use him? Oh, well, maybe he doesn't know what he's talking about, because you can just say these things. There's a lot of misinformation, and it's not like there's the immediate effect of it, right? Like you shoot somebody and like very soon it's in the news, there's jail, like all this stuff. It's an immediate thing, but some of this stuff can go out for years. I had a friend who he was doing well, I haven't been caught yet. And then when he got divorced, his wife did something that really, really, really set him back, like multiple six figures of, it is what it is, but it's like you should have paid that to begin with. But then he was hit with, it was years of compounding interest is what got it up so high.
Yeah, one of the biggest whistleblowers are ticked off spouses, where she's like, oh, you don't want to pay me? No problem.
Great news.
If you don't want to pay spousal support, child support, whatever, no problem. Hello, IRS. Yes. Let me tell you about these tax returns. Yeah. And whistleblower, and and the thing that people like have a difficult time with is like there is a whistleblower program. I just saw a case where the SEC just paid two Wall Street types like $2.3 million because they essentially ratted somebody out and said, hey, they're doing something funky over here. And so with the whistleblower program, you get a percentage of whatever the government recovers. So if they got paid $2.3 million, holy cow, what did that tax bill look like for that company that they turned in? Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
That is an incredible refer a friend program.
It's like,
refer an enemy.
Yes, refer an enemy, get paid today. There are people that make a living doing this stuff. So
I mean, if you've got the resources and information, and we kind of laugh about it, that it's like, well, they're turning people in, but I mean, at the same time, if you're breaking the law, it's not, you shouldn't, like, it's not their fault for turning you in. It's more your fault for conducting yourself that way.
Yeah, you broke.
So have you run into situations where people that just said, like, flat out, I want to illegally deduct this and make that happen? Or how do you handle situations like that?
You invite them to go other places. That is really what you do, because you know that you have to work within the confines of the law. And just because someone demands that you deduct something, you have to be okay with saying, listen, it was a pleasure meeting you. Here are your documents. Have a nice day. I can't help you. Because at the end of the day, as soon as that person gets audited, who's the first person they're going to throw under the bus? The tax person and the accountant. Well, my tax person deducted it. Well, my accountant said, and then the IRS is coming to you. Okay, accountant. Okay, tax person. Can you show me where you did not do this? And if you can't do that, you're getting hemmed up too. You're going to get fined. Okay. And they just increase the fines, by the way. So whenever they have all these new acts and stuff that come out, what gets buried in there is when they start increasing fines and you don't find out until you get the bill.
That's pretty much how everything works. So like we were discussing earlier, and I apologize for having to delay the show, but we ran into that with our internet service provider where they put in the early termination fee, and despite COVID, it's a big one. And they just, slide it in there. It's like, here, you get all these channels, and here's the speed that you're getting, and do not even think about doing anything other than just continuing to just pay this wonderful bill. And that's one of the running jokes that we have in the organization. At least back when we were in the office, It was just like, great news. It costs money to fix.
And you're going to pay us, and we thank you.
Right. I mean,
yeah, but the thing about it is, and what I want people to know is to be careful of the headlines, because headlines are meant to draw you in, right? They're meant to make you want to read more. So when there's all this juicy stuff, it's really meant to evoke an emotion to make you want to go find out what in the world is going on, because that's how they make their money, right?
Yeah.
If they got ads and all of that stuff, you got to see these ads in order for them to make their money. So you got to do these things. But yeah, a lot of my, my tax pro friends, my accountant friends, they're like, okay, so is everybody else's inboxes and emails blowing up with people wanting to know how they can get a $750 tax bill? I'm like, yeah, lose $1 billion and you too can have a $750 tax bill.
Yeah. I'm just trying to comprehend. I mean, when you run companies, I mean, that's how you can accomplish that. But I'm just trying to think like how I could spend $950 million. I mean, when you're at that level, it's not out of the question.
No, it's, and especially being involved in real estate. So, he's got, all of these buildings and whatnot going on, but losing money in business is just not cute. And a lot of times people are like, oh, I'm going to go in business, I'm going to lose money, I'm going to get a bigger refund and all these other things. And like, no, that's not quite how that works, because, even though, he's lost a lot of money, he's made money as well. So it's not like losing $100 million is going to, put him on Skid Row. That's not going to happen. But you, however, that might be a little bit of a different story, right? You and I can't go lose $100,000, much less $100 million and expect to live. That's not going to work. And so, a lot of times people get upset. Oh, it's rich people. It's all this. Like, the tax laws don't discriminate. So if you qualify for a tax credit or a tax deduction or whatever, you get to take those things. That's just the way it is. So, people are very angry and like, oh, rich people don't pay their fair share and all this other stuff. I'm like, it depends on who you call rich, because I've seen multi-million-dollar W-2s and I've seen the taxes that they pay. And they pay more in taxes than people make in 1 or 2 years. And I mean, I'm offended by what their tax withholdings are. Like, whew, goodness, I'll live off a fraction of that and be okay. So it's just, it really is just understanding the tax law, understanding that there's differences between having a business and being a regular W-2 employee. There's just difference. And the other meme that's floating around social media right now that I think is absolutely hilarious is that it shows all the Democrats, and, it's Kamala Harris, it's Joe Biden, I think it's Bernie Sanders and somebody else, and showing what they paid in tax, and they show Donald Trump $750. But the difference is Donald Trump runs a business. The other ones have jobs. They're senators. They're all political people, right? That's a W-2 job. Do they have investments? And some of them do have businesses, absolutely. But they got all this W-2 income. So yeah, it looks a little different. It doesn't mean that it's shady. That's the point I want to make here.
And but the whole world wants to. I feel like everybody has become an armchair expert, right? And they're just like,
Mm-hmm.
look, here, I've seen the posts online. It's like, I'm 19 and I pay more taxes than the president. It's like, your life it's not apples to apples,
Yes,
but
you're not.
everyone just looks at their own personal situation, and then it's like, well, our income levels are extremely different, and our situation of business owner versus W 2 is extremely different. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
just going to look at amounts paid in taxes, and
Yeah,
if I am paying more, then he is a criminal.
right.
And I mean, there are pieces in there that it's like you had said with the haircuts, and it's like, yes, you need to be on camera all the time, blah blah blah, but it's like you could also wear that hair out at
Mm-hmm.
other places, or maybe it was to like direct your attention to like, this is not a toupee, this is real hair that I pay good money to
To
keep looking
maintain.
this good. You could not be. Would
That was
I spend
hilarious.
$70,000 a year on haircuts if this was fake? And it's like, is that really your logic to get us on board? This isn't.
Yeah, but the other thing I want people to realize is that, large corporations, yeah, it's the federal tax. But what the part that you don't hear about is the state tax. You don't hear about the payroll taxes. You don't hear about any of the excise taxes. Like there's a litany of other taxes that business owners pay. But federal is one of those things where it's kind of an across the board thing where tax laws are equal, among all the United States. There's, how state taxes are different. So you don't get that news. So you don't get when business owners pay, all of the other taxes and what that tax bill looks like. And those are taxes that they pay really for you to be employed, right? For you to be able to have a job, for them to be able to have a business in a particular area in order for you to be able to go to job and make the income that you do. So yeah, so it's not just the federal taxes. That's the only thing people scream about is federal taxes. But I'm like, yeah, but there's a whole bunch of other ones though.
But in Florida, no state.
Yeah, I know. In Texas and Washington State, all of those no income tax states. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, from what I understand, the big reason that Florida doesn't have it is because so much of the revenue comes from travel, and Disney is a huge draw, so they make all their money that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious, moving forward, if they're like, hey, everyone else pays taxes, has state tax, we should do it too.
Yeah.
Just dip our toes in the water, see how mad people get. Just 1%.
Just
And it's like, wow, that's a lot of money, 1% of everybody. Let's make it 10.
Yeah.
Like I'm originally from Maryland, so I was used to 10%.
Right.
And then when I moved down here and got my first W-2 job, and I was making less money top line, but I was keeping more bottom line, and it was like, this doesn't even make sense, but that's exactly how those things work. And that's a big cut too, for something that's just, I'm physically living in a place that's better than where I used to live and pay less.
Right. You get paid less,
paycheck.
but you have more money. Like how does that math add up? But yes, it does. Amen.
You know what? Don't hate the player game. Right?
That's exactly it. That's it.
that is just that's like the sequel part of it. Like Home Alone 2, and then it's like Lost in New York. It's like taxes. Don't hate the player, hate the game.
That's it. Hate the game. Better yet, learn the game. Like
learn the game. They don't teach it.
They don't teach it at school. Now, I will have to say that schools are getting on board because my son had a personal finance class, and they talked about taxes. And so at that point, he was a star student, and I felt like a very good mom at that point. But he's like, Mom, these kids don't know anything about taxes. I was like, yes, I know, son, but you will not be one. You must understand, like, this is how this is going to work.
It's a huge thing, though, that we just kind of, whatever, it's taken out of my check. And I know a lot of business owners, especially when they transition, be like the carpet cleaner that worked at Stanley Steamer and then goes off on his own.
Mm-hmm.
Taxes aren't part of the equation.
Right.
Today's the first day of Q4, so like a 1040 ES isn't on their horizon
Mm-hmm.
because it never has been until they get hit with fines and all that other stuff, which I was fortunate enough to learn the hard way. Like most people that it was like, wait, I pay taxes. It's on payroll taxes, and I pay at the end of the year. I paid everything up front, and it's like you got to be chipping away at it, and it's like that applies to me
You
too.
too, yeah.
Like, yeah. This is a business. You got to do that.
And
It's like I thought that was just like best practice,
not like a have to kind of thing, but really,
right?
what studies have shown though is that the in the younger millennials as well as the Gen Zers that are making a living and in the gig economy, the Uber Eats and driving for Uber Lyft, that kind of thing. What the part that these are the some of the people that are getting in tax trouble the fastest, simply because nobody ever told them that they had to pay taxes. So they get this 1099K and go, oh, just toss that aside. The government doesn't know I'm making this money.
That's how much money I made on this federal document.
Like, yeah, whatever. And then 2 years later, it's, oh my gosh, I'm getting this letter from the government saying I owe all this money. Like, how do they know? Anytime you get a form in the mail with
They
money, a copy goes to the IRS, so they're just waiting for you. Like, that's how that works. And so generally, they don't get to it until 3 years later, right? So, but here's the thing about that. So in that 3 years, if you haven't filed and if you're due a refund, you're not going to get that money. So if the government owes you money, they're not going to be like, hey, Andrew, we owe you about $1,000, babe. You going to file or what? No, that's not what they're going to do. After that 3 years, you can't get your refund. So then they're going to send you a letter. So either you owe, or if you were due a refund, they're going to keep your money because you're past the statute. So either way, the government's going to get paid.
So basically, I think the consensus is, of all the organizations out there where it's like, screw them, I don't like, this keeps coming up and I just have to drop this resentment. But like at Comcast, like on the phone with them, I was like if I just don't pay this, and it would be the first thing that I've ever just not paid. If I just didn't pay this, they're like, well, we'll shut off your service. I'm like, that's what I'm asking you to do. And they're like, well, you better pay it, man. And I'm like, you really don't have any leverage. But when it comes to the IRS, it's like, well, don't pay it. It's like, or else what? It's like, you go to jail? Oh, all right, maybe. Yeah. Death and taxes, the only guaranteed.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that's caught people by surprise now, you think a $50,000 tax bill, like who would ever owe the government, $50,000? Well, yeah, it happens. But now they can shut down your passport. Once you're like over that 50 grand, they can call the State Department and be like, hey, Andrew might be trying to go somewhere. Can you shut down that passport, please, and thank you? So you won't be able to renew your passport or anything like that until that tax bill gets paid. And that actually started, the law was written back in 2015. They just started enforcing it this, 2018, 2019, they started really enforcing it, saying, okay, you're getting this letter from the State Department saying, hey, your passport's not valid because you owe the government over $50,000. So you can't go outside. You are now on restriction.
But just not anywhere.
Yeah, you're now on restriction. You cannot go outside the United States. Thank you.
Mm.
Until you pay us this money.
Oh my gosh. Well, there's been so many nuggets and takeaways from this. And Lisandra, thank you so much for spitting facts and not the false, the news and the headlines. You know, that like you had said, if the headlines were just like, well, he probably maybe did something, nobody would be interested. And they do that in Florida every year. There's a hurricane that's going to wipe us off the face of the earth. Keep watching so we can get. It's like the Weather Channel. You know, it's like we get this on our phone. I don't need to turn on the Weather Channel to find out the weather. I can literally ask and I'm not going to say it because it starts beeping. I can ask the Amazon product that is in every single room what the weather is, and it's way easier than Weather Channel and commercials. But when there's a hurricane that's going to hit us, and everybody forgets every year, it's a huge, this one's going to be the one, this one's going to be the one. It's like, remember Hurricane Andrew 25 years ago? This one's just like that. Missed. Whew.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. But wait, there's more. There's more. So, Lisandra, where can people learn more about you and your company?
Awesome. Well, you can follow me online. I'm a YouTuber, so I have a YouTube channel. I'm the Home Biz Tax Lady on all channels. So YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. YouTube is where I hang out the most. So I'm usually producing videos on a regular basis. New season starts next week.
New season starts next week. Yes. Perfect timing. We'll be sure to have links to it in the show notes. I know I'm going to subscribe because you are just the most perfect person that could ever be telling anybody about taxes.
Thank you.
Ever. And to the people watching, be sure to subscribe. That's how we grow the channel. And for anyone listening that needs IT, that is an accountant or somebody with a PTIN, we can help. We offer complimentary IT audits to make sure that you do not end up in the headlines the same way that other people that we have talked about in the show. So, Lisandra, thank you so much. It's been such a great time.
Thank you for having me.